we're going to simplify expressions in this lesson. So to simplify an expression means to combine as much stuff together, multiply as much things out to make our expression as small as possible. And this can be really helpful when we go to solve equations, because the first thing you want to do when you go to solve an equation is to get it as simple as possible. Okay, that's why it's called simplify. We're trying to get things together. When I say things, terms, numbers, variables. And we're going to do that two different ways. We're going to combine like terms, and we're going to use the distributive property. So first, let's talk about what a term is. Okay, so a term can be a number, it can be a variable, or the product, meaning multiplying of those two things. So if we look at an expression that looks like, and you don't need to write this down, but if we look at an expression that looks like this, it has three terms. Terms are separated by addition and subtraction. So here's one term, here's another term, and then here's my final term. When you consider a term, I like to consider it with the sign that it's with. So like with the addition sign, with the subtraction sign. Okay. We can combine things that are like terms, and we combine, sometimes people call it collecting like terms. It means to add or subtract them together. To be like, terms, like terms are terms with the same variables, or variable, so it can be multiple, with the same exponents. With does not have an E on it. With the same, oh my gosh, I put an E again. Oh gosh, same exponents. All right, so I'm gonna write down some terms, and then we're gonna think it out. Are they like or not like? So let's look at 4x and 3x. 4x and 3x, they have the same variables, x and x, and they both are to the first power. So those are like. So I'm gonna put those in the like section. All right, here's the next one. 4x squared and 3x. Now they both have an x, but one has a square and one doesn't. So those are not like. All right, next one. 4x squared, 3x squared. Same variables, same exponents, they're like. All right, let's look at this pair. 4x, 3y. 3y. Why did my 3 vanish? First my y vanished and my 3 vanished. Okay, they're back. All right, 4x and 3y. Those are not like, because one has an x and one has a y. We can't combine those together. They would have to stay separate. That's the ugliest y. Oh well, what can you do? All right, how about 4x squared and 3y squared? They're both square terms. However, one's an x, one's a y. Those are not like. All right, 4, 3. Neither one has a variable. They're just two numbers. Numbers are always like. All right. How about 4xy and 3yx? Remember, multiplication is commutative, meaning the order doesn't matter. So for instance, 4xy is the same as 4yx. So that means that 4xy, 3yx are like terms. They have the same variables. They're to the same power, they're just in a different order, which doesn't matter. So obviously this last expression, these last two sets of terms, I'm probably not going to be like, because that's the spot I have left. All right, so 4xy and 3xy. But what if one of them has a square on it? No, they're not like anymore. All right, so we're going to talk about two different ways of simplifying. We're going to combine like terms, meaning to add our like terms. So for instance, all these like terms that we have here, we can add 4x and 3x would be 7x's. If there was subtraction, we'd have 4x minus 3x, which would be 1x, or just x. So combine like terms. Like terms can be combined by adding or subtracting the coefficients. Coefficients are the numbers before the variables. All right, so we're going to do two examples of that. So, example 1, 5x minus 2x plus 9 minus 10. And then example 2, x minus 6 plus 5x plus 10. All right. So, example 1. 5x and minus 2x are like. So we're going to combine those. 5 minus 2 is 3, and they both have an x. So 5x's, take away 2x's, I'm only left with 3x's. So if 5x's in a hand and someone says, give me 2 of the x's, I'm only left with 2. Sorry, 3. 9 and 10 are like. So we have 9 minus 10, so a positive 9. Notice when I go to combine, I consider that a positive 9 minus 10. A term includes its sign. So positive 9 minus 10 is a positive 1. Nope, it's a negative 1. So 9 minus 10, negative 1. All right, example 2. So number 2, the like terms are together. X is like with positive 5. So x plus 5x. So 1x plus 5x is 6x's. And then negative 6, positive 10. So negative 6 plus 10 is a positive 4. Okay, so those are simplified. Again, the directions for these would just say simplify. It might not even tell you to combine like terms. But we got to think with simplifying, can things be added together? Also, when we're doing simplifying, we need to see if things can be multiplied. So we use the distribution property to get rid of multiplication. Sorry, to get rid of parentheses when there's multiplication. All right, so we always say we have A and then B plus C. I would multiply A times B and then A times C. And sometimes you'll see these things where people do that. All right, A times B, A times C. And we call that distributive property because we're giving A to the B and we're giving A to the C. So we're combining them together. So we're going to do 3 examples of that, of multiplying the outside number times the inside. And you got to make sure you distribute it to both terms inside the parentheses, or however many terms there are inside the parentheses. And then, oh, I had to find my other example. Whoa, that's not right. But this is. All right. So, we're going to do 3. On an example, we're going to do 3 times 4x and 3 times 2. 3 times 4x, we do just 3 times 4, and that would be 12x's. So if I have 4x's and then I multiply that times 3, now I have 12x's. 3 times minus 2 is minus 6. So I did 3 times 4, 3 times 2. 3 times 4 is 12, and there's an x there. Example 2, I'm going to do negative 6 times 2x. I multiply negative 6 times that coefficient, 2, and I get negative 12 x's. And then I'm going to do negative 6 times a negative 4. So we treat this like a negative 4. So a negative times a negative will be a positive. Negative 6 times negative 4 is a positive 24. Right? And then we're going to do negative for number 3. We have just a negative on the outside. We're going to treat that like a negative 1. Okay, remember we can always assume 1s. So negative 1 times 5x is a negative 5x. A negative 1 times a 2 is a negative 2. All right, so negative times 5 is negative 5x, and negative times 2 is a negative 2, or we write that as a minus 2. All right, to be in simplest form, an expression can't have any parentheses, and all the like terms must be combined. So to get an expression in simplest form, we're going to distribute, because we're going to multiply before we add or subtract. That's your order of operations right there. And then combine like terms. So if there's any parentheses, we're taking care of them first. So keep that in mind when we're simplifying. For numbers, for examples 1, 2, 3, and 4, there's no parentheses, so we don't need to worry about multiplying. We're just combining like terms. So for example 1, we have a 3x, and we're adding 6x. Remember, we add the coefficients because I have 3 x's and another 6, so I have 9 x's altogether. For example 2, I have 3x, take away 6 x's, so I'm actually in debt 3 x's. 3 minus 6 is negative 3, and then x. Example 3, we're going to do, our like term is 10. All right, 10 is a like term with minus 5. I want us to get in the habit of writing the variables first. So our variable is 2n. Okay, 2n, and then our 10 minus 5 is a positive 5. So whenever I get a positive, I'm going to write it as addition. If I get a negative, I'm going to write it as subtraction. So for instance, in number 4, I'm going to take care of my variables first. I'm going to have 5y minus a 6y, or 5 plus a negative 6. 5 plus a negative 6 is a negative 1, so we're going to write that as negative y. And negative 13 plus 2, so we're going to treat that like negative 13 plus 2 is a negative 11. So if we get a negative, it's the same as subtraction when we're going to combine these. Examples 5 and 6, we're using distributive property. Okay, how do I know? Because I have a number outside parentheses. And we want to get rid of parentheses when we're simplifying. So we're going to do, for example 5, we're going to do 2 times x is 2x. And then 2 times negative 6 is negative 12. So 2 times x, 2 x's, so I had 1 multiplied by the 2, now I have 2 x's, and then 2 times negative 6 is negative 12. For number 6, I'm going to do negative 5 times 2y is negative 5, 2y, negative 10, and then y. Negative times a negative, so negative 5 times negative 4 is a positive 20. The biggest mistake on these problems is not distributing the negative, not making sure we take care of those signs. In fact, it's probably the most common mistake in algebra is people not taking care of negatives when distributing. All right, so let's look at number 7. We cannot add this together. Same thing with number 8. We cannot subtract those until we get rid of the parentheses. Parentheses have to go first. They have to go away. So number 7, I'm going to do positive 3 times both of those. So I'm just bring down the 2x. Positive 3 times 2x is a positive 6x. And then positive 3 times negative 1 is a negative 3. You have to get rid of those parentheses first. Now I combine. Now I can do some addition. You can't do addition as long as there's parentheses floating. It's a big no-no. All right, 2 plus 6 is 8, so I have 8x's minus 3. Example 8. Again, don't combine this. We can't do any subtraction until we get rid of parentheses. I'm going to bring down this negative 2. I'm going to take this negative 4, and I'm going to multiply both of those by that. Negative 4 times a positive 6 is a negative 24, and with a y. Negative 4 times a positive 3 is a negative 12. I'm going to get in the habit of writing my variable first, which is negative 24y, so that's my variable term. And I'm going to do negative 2 minus 12, or negative 2 plus negative 12, whichever makes sense in your brain, which is negative 14. Okay, so that is now simplified. Example 9. I can't subtract until I get rid of parentheses. What am I distributing there? I'm not distributing a 2p. I'm distributing that secret 1 right there. Secretly, there's a 1 there. So I'm going to do negative 1 times 8p is negative 8p. Notice I just brought that other 2p down. Negative 1 times 6 is a negative 6. It's very important you know that. Again, that distributing a negative, we got to get in the habit of doing that because that, again, it's a very common mistake in algebra. So now I'm going to do 2 minus 8 is negative 6, and then p. 2 minus 8, or 2 plus a negative 8, whichever makes sense to you, and then minus 6. And then finally, example 10, we're going to simplify that. We're going to get rid of both sets of parentheses first. The first set gets multiplied by 5, so 15x minus 20. The second set gets multiplied by 2, 18x plus 6. Now I combine like terms. 15 plus 18 is 33 x's, and then negative 20 plus 6, again with the sign, negative 20 plus 6 is negative 14. So, simplifying our expressions. Distribute first. If there's parentheses, they gotta go. First things first. Then, I'm going to combine any terms that are like, making sure I include the sign. Check your signs. Check your signs.